Coach, I want to ask you the same question I asked Jalen there. When you look back at the tape with Coach Sanders, you guys have two great quarters of defense and then just two 45-point outbursts that they were able to have at 28 and then in the fourth quarter there. He mentioned the explosive plays, but what's frustrating about that as a head coach with that inconsistency?
I think we go post game, and the 28 is still a 28, the 17 is still a 17 in the fourth quarter. You find some more information out when you sit on Sunday for 3 or 4 hours and hear about the calls, the whys, the checks, the wins, the hows. Did someone get overridden by a call because they were older? So on the field, you don't know exactly in the moment what's going on, especially as a head coach. What the 18 to 23-year-olds are thinking, or calling, or feeling, or seeing. And so find out that many of the explosives were on our end. It's not what they did, it's what we did to ourselves. So we're beating ourselves. It's kind of been that way in 3 conference games where we've played really good for 2 quarters, but those 2 quarters against Montana and Sac were back-to-back. And then against Davis, and I'm talking team-wise, it was in the first and in the third. Even though it was 3 points in the first, it was still up 3-0 in the first. The second and the fourth kind of got us. So trying to go from 2 to 3 in a row. Ideally, we'd like to skip the third step to get to the fourth step, the 4 quarters, but it's been a half, and then it's kind of been an intermittent half this last week. But a lot of that's our undoing in a weird way. We're not physically getting defeated like in a lot of times a couple years ago in 22, where we were at the point of attack getting call was good. The technique was good enough. The physicality wasn't close enough. And now it's a little bit different. Those things are the things you see on film where it's not a physical element. It's not a talent gap. It's trusting yourself in the moment, the bigger moments, to do your job and to push the ball back. Because sometimes making the play isn't making the tackle. And so we got to realize that. And we're starting to get a few more to realize that. But a few more isn't good enough. We got to get there sooner than we want to against a really, really good football team this Saturday.
When you look at them, obviously offense, it is possible that Jack Lane will be back in time for that game, but Wagner's looked pretty good the last couple of weeks. They don't have Anthony Woods anymore, but still still a pretty balanced offensive attack, and then obviously their defense is one top in the Big Sky. Just overall looking at them, what do you see?
Yeah, well, I mean, I noticed you talked to the kids last year about Anthony Woods, and I single-handedly went up to him after the game last year and said, "You won that game. I mean, you single-handedly. Like, I applaud you for the work you did. I happened to be on the wrong sideline, but it was a dominant performance by him in that front." See a staunch defense. I see a stout defense. I see a defense that wants to get you in 3rd and 6 and 7 plus. We got to stay in front of the sticks. Cal Poly did a great job of that early on in the game last week to be able to put themselves in 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5s to a manageable 2-down situation to gain 4 or 5 yards. You can't just quick game them though, because at some point they're going to be a passing window. So you got to take some shots. You got to protect. We got to run the ball better. For 2 weeks in a row, we ran the ball. We felt like at will up front against two top contenders in the Big Sky. And then this last week, we fell off a little bit. So we can't just devise schemes to do it because the schemes aren't going to change. The people aren't going to change. We've got to do a better job within the scheme to get it done. So credit to Davis's defense, keeping it between the tackles, like I talked about Saturday night. That's what Idaho's going to do. They're going to funnel it to the tackles and backers. We want to get on the edge, so it's going to be kind of a back and forth affair, trying to test the edges and see if we can kind of condense the edges a little bit to get on the edge. Offensively, no matter who's at quarterback, they played lights out for about better part of 3 quarters last week. Was their best game by far, in my opinion, from a flow standpoint at quarterback, hitting some throws. They're going to run the ball first down. They're going to run the ball ideally second down, and then they're going to take big shots on 3rd down. Just told the team today they lead the conference in passes per completion at 15.5 plus for a team that doesn't throw it a ton. So that tells you when they do throw it, they don't like to dink and dunk. They like to go over the top. So they'll low you, they'll bring your safeties down, they'll get your corners in bad situations, get your backers moving laterally, and then all of a sudden they're pushing the ball vertically. So they can beat you in many ways. They're not going to beat themselves. They're at home, 6 o'clock game. I assume the environment will be pretty rowdy, which is good. When you're on the road, it's hard enough to be on the road, so let's make it harder. Let's get some fans in the game, local game, against two good opponents that know each other fairly well. And last year was last year. Last year was last year. One-score game without Kikoa doesn't mean really anything other than the personnel that was in the game last year. But that game was at home. Now we go on the road and try to get back that one-score plus a little bit more. If we can do it, stay out of the sticks.
Coach, you've been talking about how you've maybe had some really good quarters, not so good quarters. I feel like Idaho has had that trend in a few of their games as well. Do you anticipate that that's how this Saturday is going to kind of go, like back and forth, kind of holding the lead, or what do you expect to see in this game?
Well, I think they're going to try to shorten the game like most teams do that are good defensively. They're going to minimize possessions. They're going to try to run the ball. They average in the mid-60s on both sides of the ball, plays per game. In the Big Sky Conference, they've played 4, we played 3. 63 snaps a game for us on offense is a low number. That means either we're scoring from afar or we're not moving the ball at all. We're punting 6 or 8 or 10 times in a game. That's the game they want to play. We want to push that thing to high 70s, low 80s if we can. But to do that, you got to get first downs. But we got to start out of the gate doing that because last week, for the first 5 drives, we were 3 and out. And the other drive, we scored 3 points. So we've got to find ways to stay on the field, grab points, ideally the 7-point varieties. But they're going to try to shorten the game. Again, they're sound defensively. They're sound on offense. They're sound on special teams. There's not really a disadvantage that they have within themselves. Maybe you could argue the bodies that they have to suit up, but everybody this time's got people down. Just unfortunately at their position of quarterback, which is pretty important in this game, that they've had a few more obstacles than most. But we ran into that situation last year knowing we weren't going to have Kay Cohen, and the greatest adjust. And they've done a great job thus far. Played some really good football in pockets, and not as good a football as they anticipate in other pockets. And that can be frustrating and challenging, but it's also gives you a chance to get back to the drawing board and try to put two quarters into 3 and 3 into 4 and carry that into the next game.
Have you seen anything different from Coach Eck and just maybe the way that he's coaching this team? I'm pretty sure the last time you guys won was 21 before he was here.
Mm-hmm.
Just what is he maybe doing or instilling in his team that's kind of giving them a little bit of an edge recently?
Well, I think new isn't always bad, and I think just a re-energization in that program and bringing some really good, talented transfers in over the last couple of years, and scheduling hasn't helped them, but they've done really good with the schedule they've had over the last couple of years. He's an offensive guy, he's an O-line guy, so there's not too many of us out of there or out here doing what we're doing at the head coach role, and he's probably a little bit more personable than me, but that's the way he does things. That's the way I do things, and but I do think he's a very well cross-section coach. He's been in the Midwest. He's been in the Big Sky before, at Idaho, at Montana State. So he's been around some places and taken some different ideas from different places. And it all starts defensively and run game, and they've done a great job, even with the coordinator leaving, bringing a new coordinator in, or hiring a new coordinator. They haven't really skipped a beat, but it goes back to players. Players make plays in big moments, and the best do, and they've done that thus far this year. And so we've got to try to negate some of those big moments, so those big players don't make the plays in the big moments, and at least kind of allow ourselves a chance to be back and forth in a little bit of a chess match. But done a great job up to this point. Season hasn't played out for either of us as the way we anticipated, but we got a chance to kind of correct things a little bit more this week, and they're going to get after us, we're going to get after them, and they'll give everything they got because they're going into a bye week, so they got nothing to leave on the table as they head into a bye week next week.
Your offense has been what's keeping you guys in a lot of these games, winning you some games. Is that something you want to see in this game? You said high 70s, low 80s snap count. You want to turn this game into a shootout ideally, or keep it
No. The quick answer is no. I want to keep them out there for longer periods of time that they're used to playing. When you're used to playing 60, you're fresh. I mean, instead of taking 60 snaps, you take 80. That's 25% more snap intake than normal. They rotate guys like everybody, but they're going to leave their main guys out there. And we want those main guys out there to take more reps and maybe wear them down at times. But first down's the big key. Moving the ball on first down and not putting ourselves in obvious pass situations is any key against Idaho. They got up 14-0 on Davis. Davis, clawed back and got back on top of things, but that was on the road. They're a battle-tested team. So, no, it's not a shootout per se. We just want to put them in uncomfortable moments where they haven't been before, because if you haven't been, you can only visualize. And so trying to get them to 70s and 80s means we're on the field, which means we're moving the ball, which means we're putting drives together. We got to end with points. But at the end of the day, it is not something we want to be. I think one of the big keys that has allowed us to be where we're at isn't just offense, but it's been turnover margin. We haven't created too many turnovers on defense, but we haven't given up the ball. We tie for the nation's lead in turnovers given away. 1 fumble, 1 pick with North Dakota State. So 2 total on offense. And so that is something we pride ourselves on, keeping possession of the ball, because it's the most important thing on the field, period, bar none. So third down percentage, red zone percentage, and turnover margin have kept us in ball games to allow ourselves to have a chance at the end of the game. So that's probably the biggest key, not a shootout, but really trying to get 2+ this week if we can, in some capacity, shape, or form, whether it be fumbles or picks. But we gotta start getting balls out on defense.
If you want to talk a little bit about your relationship with Coach Eck, somebody who's both been around Big Staff a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of started way back when. He was at Montana State for a few years, but even before that, we actually both interviewed at Idaho for the O-line job way back when in 07 when he was there. I think it's tight ends coach prior to that, and then Coach Akey came on board in January of 07, and he wasn't, neither of us were hired, so that tells you something. I don't know what that something is, but and then he went out to, I believe, Midwest at that point, and then came back to Montana State. So we've crossed paths a few times. Great dude, jovial guy, serious when he needs to be, but fun when he needs to be too. Doesn't take life too serious. Got a bunch of kids, so any dad with a bunch of kids probably enjoys his time, at home, and so whether kids are 18 or 23, or you have 3 or 4 kids at home. Never a slow day at the office, so to speak. So great human, great person, respect him a ton, and he certainly turned that program around from where it was in 21 back to national playoff picture, title contender.
Coach, we talked about it, being 2-5. If that's not enough motivation for you, probably shouldn't be playing. But the last time you guys played in the Dome, they got you pretty good, and Chiz, Nolan, Sam, a lot of those guys were on that team. Is this kind of a week where maybe those guys can, be those veteran leaders and get them from the team and kind of, bring something, maybe a little extra to this game?
You hope so. You always hope your leaders can do that, and your old guys, the playmakers, can do that. But it doesn't matter if it's after Chisholm, who's 5th on the pass receiving list, or a guy that's playing his 5th game. I mean, leaders lead. You don't have to have a ton of equity to be able to be a leader. But yeah, certainly we can reach back to some of those moments. They got us pretty good, but it took them a little bit to get them going. We actually had a pick on the first series, if I remember right, Keyshawn King, and didn't get a 4th down. Some things went wrong early, kind of snowballed on us, and they got after us towards the 3rd and 4th quarter. And then obviously last year was a kind of a back and forth affair a little bit, and they dominated the line of scrimmage just a little bit more than us. And I think we threw the ball 10 times the entire game. So I think that was the first time we realized we can win games by not throwing the ball around the yard. Just the way it kind of went down, lose by 8 with a penalty late in the game, not to give us possession of the football for a chance to tie. And it's the way it went down. But you can reach back a little bit. But, last year was last year. 3 years ago was 3 years ago. Some of those guys played in those games. Nolan had a big catch in that game, touchdown in the game, if I remember right. It is what it is, but every team's this new team. And really, this day and age, every team's a new team every week. I mean, especially the Big Sky. I mean, you've got to put your big boy britches on every single week because it's on. I mean, it's on every single week, home or away. And so it goes to show you what and how strong this league is, top to bottom, and we're trying to knock off one of the top dogs.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate it.